All right, I'm here with John Adams. John is the editor-in-chief with the Montana Free Press. John was the first media outlet to report the news about a suspect in the 28-year-old cold case homicide of Danielle Houchins in 1996. Now, Houchins was found raped and murdered at a fishing access near Bozeman. And just last Thursday, Gallatin County Sheriff Dan Springer named Paul Hutchinson as the suspect of the unsolved murder. John, thanks so much for joining me and taking the time to talk with me. Tell me about how you came across this story.
Yeah, I heard about it about a week before the press. I heard about it about a week before the sheriff's press conference from a source who was close to the case. I reached out to the investigator, Tom Elfmont, who Sheriff Dan Springer had brought in to be a special deputy investigator to try to uncover this 28-year-old cold case. And so I reached out to Mr. Elfmont. He was amenable to sharing details about the investigation, including details into the DNA evidence that had been uncovered, and then the genetic genealogy that led investigators back to Paul Hutchinson as the suspect. It was kind of a roundabout way of finding out about it and then reaching out directly to the investigator, who was pretty open to sharing information.
Okay. And how long had you been working on this story prior to the surprising news coming out at that press conference?
I think I first heard about it on a Wednesday, and by Friday of that week, I was in Bozeman interviewing the investigator at his home near Bridget Canyon. I worked on it throughout the rest of that weekend and all throughout the week, interviewing. I think I interviewed 15 different sources for this story, including members of Danny Houchin's family, former classmates of hers, her best friend, who now lives out of state. I interviewed her sister, who was, very adamant about reopening this case, and one of the driving forces behind this case getting another look from the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. I interviewed the former sheriff at the time, Bill Slaughter, who gave his thoughts on the solving of this case all these years later. So it was a pretty extensive project involving a lot of interviews and hundreds of pages of documents spanning some 28 years.
Okay. And then what was everybody close with Danielle? What was their reaction to the suspect? And then what was their reaction with you going and reporting on this case once again?
The reaction was actually, everybody was very eager to talk about it. This case has haunted a lot of folks for a long time, and there's been a lot of pain and suffering over the years. And this question of who killed Danny has been on the front of mind for certainly everybody who knew Danny personally, but a lot of law enforcement officers as well, including the sheriff. The sheriff started his career at the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office just a few days before Danny was killed. One of the lead investigators who picked up the case in the 2000s, she also started just a few days before Danny was killed. And so this has been one of those cases that a lot of folks were involved with, either from an investigation standpoint, or they were close to Danny or her family. Everybody who knew about it, it was convinced that Danny had been murdered. And so this lingering question of who did it, are they still out there, was on the front of the mind for a lot of folks. So when news got out that the suspect had been identified, folks are pretty eager to talk about it and share their story of how this story has impacted them over the years.
Okay. And then how has Paul Hutchinson's family reacted to this?
Yeah, this has been a really, really tough situation for his family, who, by all accounts, had no idea that their husband and father had, been involved with this crime. I would say that from what I've seen online from other folks who posted about reaction, that this is, not just been hard on the family, but hard on the community there in Dillon, folks who knew him. It's a small town, and he'd been there a long time, and a lot of folks knew him and had a perspective on him that's different from the one that has emerged in recent days. His family actually posted on his obituary page at the local funeral home and on legacy.com a statement in which they expressed, the fact that they are absorbing this news while also grieving the loss of their husband and father, but that this has been really hard, and it's a double wound for them, and something that they're going to have to come to grips with over time. And they've also expressed their condolences and sadness on behalf of Danny's family. So I think this is going to be a really tough thing for that community to grapple with for some time to come.
All right. Thanks so much for joining me, John. I really appreciate it.